We're cooking at last, everybody. You know this, guys. This happens consistently, but we're back. Yeah, we're going to go through a few Leeds bits today. The reason I'm stood up is because my chair is a little bit knackered. So, yeah, sorry for that. But yeah, we're back here talking all things Leeds United. And I wanted to discuss something today. I wanted to discuss Rasmus Christensen. I wanted to discuss a few bits and bats when it comes to Leeds United under 18s, who I think could potentially make an impact this season, could potentially make an impact a lot quicker than we think, actually. But before the video starts, everybody, make sure you slap a like on it. Make sure you comment in the section below, as always, giving me your comments and letting me know your thoughts. Of course, head over to the Patreon if you want some bonus content as well. So without any further ado, Dave's in the building, says morning, how you, mate? Hope you're okay. AJ, hello. Philip, Paul says great phoning last night. Obviously Paul was part of the phone-in. Yeah, it was great, mate. Was really good. Shiri is looking for a nibble there. Morning Connor, lads, looking good on international duty. Yeah, let's get into that. Jay Maudsley. So once again, one of our lads proving on international duty last night that they can cut the mustard. We've had Brendan Aronson, we've had Tyler Adams, obviously we've had Sinistera, and now we've had Rasmus Christensen. I think he made his 11th cap last night for Denmark. Was extremely good by all accounts, keeping Mbappe quiet, keeping Griezmann quiet as well, who switched sides throughout the 90. And Rasmus did play the entire 90. And it got me thinking, what is going wrong at Leeds United with Rasmus Christensen? And we spoke about it last night on the phone in. I wanted to get like a short, sharp chat with you guys about Rasmus and why, in my opinion, we need to stick with him. For me, there's always going to be security. There's always going to be safety in going back to what you know. Liam Cooper, Adam Forshaw, Stuart Dallas, Luke Ayling. There's always going to be safety in that. You know, these are the boys that got us up. These are the boys who have consistently performed for Leeds United. But have they performed consistently in the Premier League is probably my next question. And I don't think that is an over exuberant yes from everybody, to be quite honest with you. I think overall it was a tough occasion for Luke Ayling, many tough occasions for Luke Ayling toward the back end of last season. I think Stuart Dallas was obviously consistently performing as well, but he was part of that contingent that was struggling a little bit. Adam Forshaw has been here and there. Liam Cooper, I mean, even against Barnsley, as someone said last night on the phone in, wasn't great, you know. And I think overall, this is the thing. I've said this multiple times, but players seem to gain attributes from fans when they are out of the side. And no doubt, you know, we'll get some of the lads coming back in. They'll put in fantastic performances, and people will be coming back and saying to me, Connor, what about this? What about that? When you said this, when you said that. As I said, these are just my thoughts, but I think at some point we've got to move on, and we're seeing that evolution. We're seeing that progress when it comes to the club actually looking at reinforcements in those areas. When it comes to people like Rasmus Christensen, when it comes to people like, you know, Pascal Strout going centre back and actually coming in and being consistent. You're hoping Robin Koch having consistent spells at centre back, which hasn't really been you know, consistent throughout his time at Leeds. It is at the moment, but it hasn't been consistent throughout his time at Leeds, the longevity of his time. So I think what the club are trying to do is move on. And I think the problem with what you're going to get is if Luke Ayling comes back in, I believe there's going to, you know, be injuries picked up by Luke. Same with Liam Cooper, and I think this was always my little bit of a worry with someone like Adam Forshaw as well. So my thoughts are on when you're looking at Adam Forshaw. Darko JB should be that next one to come into the central defensive midfield. It shouldn't be someone like Adam Forshaw. Now I know the different profiles of players, but that's the evolution. That's moving on as a club. I think Luke would come in and do a fine job, but I think there'd be points in this season where I think he would struggle, like Rasmus is struggling. You know, Luke Ayling's not just an exemplary Premier League player. We've seen that. So overall, my thoughts are that you've got to give Rasmus time. You've got to give Rasmus time in this system. You've got to give Rasmus time overall, because what we're seeing for Denmark when he's playing consistently is he has it in his locker at the top level. Yes, as Kim Barner was, our Danish fan on Leeds Fan Channel last night, was saying, the standard is very, very different to the Premier League, playing 38 games week in, week out. You're playing against top quality operators and opposition, obviously. It's very, very difficult to compare that to the international setup because, you know, if you play for Denmark, you can play teams in and around Europe who aren't at that standard. However, what you're seeing is from his personal performances, a very, very good level. And, you know, when you're matching it up against the best that it was last night, it's difficult to argue against Rasmus Christensen. It's difficult to say, well, on this stage, on this international stage, he's still rubbish. He's still crap. And I'm not saying he is those things, but there are Leeds fans saying that. So for me, you've just got to give him time. He's only 6 games in. And for me, it really is. It's almost simple, really, because you can tell when he's playing for Denmark, he gets forward a lot more, you know? So then maybe the system's inhibiting him. But then he's played in this system before. So it's a really tough one at the minute. And that's why I think it will click into place. The puzzle will come together with Rasmus. It's almost a psychological block at the minute, which I'd rather him have a psychological block than an ability block. That's what I'd rather have. So hopefully he can overcome that. Hopefully he can start to get forward a lot more. Take the risks, Rasmus. You know, I'm not a right back myself. I'm not a footballer myself, but take the risks. No one's going to have a go at you for trying because, you know, there is a risk versus reward in football. And it's normally the people who take the risks that fans absolutely lord over. You know, you see so many right backs in this division who take risks and get so many rewards. Yeah, they'll get caught out. Trent Alexander-Arnold being the prime one, being the prime example, but he still has so many accolades to his name because he's had that bravery to get forward. He's had that bravery to be able to influence games and have these highlight reels, which is what we want for Rasmus Christensen. So I think coming up against Aston Villa this weekend, we stick with Rasmus. And let's see what happens. I'm just going to get on to what you guys are talking about. Love the phone in last night. Cheers there, pal. Morning, mate. Hope all's well. Let's hope this will boost Rasmus for us. Yeah, exactly, John. Let's hope that this is going to be a real point of which Rasmus thinks, right, well, I can do it here. I can do it against Kylian Mbappe. I can do it against Antoine Griezmann. I can do it against France. We can keep a clean sheet. I can play for 90 minutes. I do think, however, and Kim made a good point last night, he is around better players. He's around much better players. There's arguably protection for him in that Danish setup. Whereas what you're getting with this Leeds United setup is you're getting the fullbacks providing the width and you're getting the fullbacks essentially having, you know, only been able to defend by themselves. There's no real cover from the wingers. That was the Bielsa way. I don't think that worked effectively under Bielsa either, but that was the way forward. And I don't think he's going to get that. So I'll have to wait and see. Sean Tong, morning, Connor. Perky should be given a shot to come into the first team. Maybe not a full start, but a good 30 minutes. We're going to come into that, mate. Carl Hudson says international football is slower and doesn't have the same team cohesion and togetherness like club football. I can agree with that, Carl. Yeah, and that's going to be the argument against Rasmus. Hey, Steele, that'll be all right. Kim's back in. I can report that Rasmus Christensen was pretty good last night. However, he made a few minor mistakes. Denmark started with a 4-3-3 and ended with a 5-2-3. Interesting. So naturally, you're going to have a little bit more protection there. Okay, so let's speak about the next. So it's going to be interesting, isn't it, everyone? It's going to be fascinating to see what he does, Marsch, because it's going to tell you a lot about Jesse Marsch as well for me. There is an argument. No, there's not an argument. For me, there's a certainty that Llorente has to come out. I think he's been at fault for 4 goals this season already. He has to come out, and there's an obvious reason he has to come out. I can't directly say Rasmus has been at fault for any goals from my perspective this season. So what are you bringing him out? You're bringing him out because he's maybe not adapting to the system quickly enough. I think there's more of a reason to take Diego Llorente out than there is Rasmus Christensen. So it'll be so fascinating, I should say, to see what Jesse Marsch does because, you know, for me, he's got to stick with him. Next bit on the news this morning. Tottenham are eyeing Illan Meslier. Tottenham Hotspur have reportedly identified Leeds' goalkeeper Illan Meslier as a replacement for Hugo Lloris. Lloris has been at Spurs for over a decade, but Phil Hay from The Athletic said it's quite interesting. Of all the clubs that are looking at Meslier, I think it's fair to say that that he's replaced Rafinha and Phillips as the highest value. But apparently Hugo Lloris is a massive fan of him. Apparently, anytime they go away for international duty, Hugo Lloris is plugging away at Tottenham to go and acquire his services at some point. Obviously, there's the French connection there. So, yeah, that's going to be one to keep an eye on, I think. Tottenham would make loads of sense. Obviously, you know, Hugo's been there since he was young as well. That just contingency plan in Illan Meslier coming in and being that replacement for Hugo. But I think it's pretty obvious that he's going to be our highest value player now, obviously with Rafa going. and Calvin Phillips. But then you look at others, you look at someone like Sinistera, who is going to go for a high value. You look at Mark Rocker, there might be clubs looking at him because he's just so exemplary. If Tyler Adams continues to have good performance after good performance after good performance, maybe other clubs are going to start looking at him. It's going to be fascinating to see how this develops, because Leeds have got a crop of players now where you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 assets in that side. And Elan Mele is probably going to be pick of the bunch. You've got Sonny Perkins in there we're going to speak about, Joe Gelhardt, Crescencio Somerville, but I think the top of the asset list at the minute is going to be Elan Mele. Leeds have to get a good value for him because he's just absolutely outstanding at the minute. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that one pens out. Katrina, morning all. Hoping for a strong bench on Sunday. I want Strauch and Koch as centre-back and Firpo take the risk. Yeah, Jay, I think the thing with, we'll get onto Firpo in just a little bit, but I think that my issue with Firpo is it's just him in this system. It's him as a footballer. It's Leeds United taking a risk when we need to pick up points. It's 1 point in 9. We don't want to get to a stage where we're playing Arsenal at home and we've got 1 or 2 points in 15. We need to pick up a win. And that's why I think Villa is almost a must win. People will say, earlier on in the season, it's Connor, don't be dramatic. It's not been dramatic. I think we just need to stop it. And I think they will target out wide. They will target out wide if they see someone like Junior Firpo. If they see someone like Diego Llorente in the team, they'll target his press, his touch. But we're going to get on to Villa's team news as well, which might give you guys a little bit of enthusiasm. Everyone was like, wow, Rasmus looks like an absolute beast. And just because of that, we're expecting much better. Yeah, I think, the physical appearance of someone like Rasmus, everybody thinks he's going to be world class, but it's obviously going to take a while. If Elan goes, that will be catastrophic for us. I can't disagree with you, mate. I think there's going to be a period of bedding in time, though, when Elan goes. I think the club understands that there's going to be, they're going to have to bring in a keeper. Obviously, even just someone like Joel Robles, I'm actually really happy that we've got someone like that, someone with Premier League pedigree, someone who's been across Europe. Obviously, we've got him from Betis as well. He's 6'7". He looks like someone who could just come in, and then maybe that's going to be a bit of a stopgap before we find a keeper again. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think someone like Victor Orta would be able to identify. That's where he's got it right. Victor Orta bringing in Elan Mele for 5 million. So we all criticise, including myself, Victor, but bringing someone like him in for 5 million. I mean, what an unbelievable bit of business that is from Lorient. So maybe he's got a little bit of a. I'd say that he's got a bit of a crux in terms of good things for goalkeepers, but he did bring in Kiko Casilla, so let that one slide amongst others. So yeah, I think we'd bring in a decent keeper of a decent level, and I'll be honest, I think it's easier to bring in a goalkeeper than, let's say, a striker. So that replacement will be interesting. Harrison as well. Completely forgot about Harrison, Carl. Yeah, players in demand. Keeper's not for sale. We should acquire Joachim Andersen. He's a beast, and back up Rasmus. Yeah, flipping out. Yeah, that'd be Joachim Andersen would be a good one. Okay, so let's get into the title of the video, everyone, which essentially is, who could solve Marsch'S headache? So what do we know about the Leeds strategy at the minute? It is youth players. We saw that last year, this year, the year before that. Greenwood, Gelhardt, Somerville, Nonto, Perkins. It's been to acquire young talent. And I think it's pretty obvious when you watch Academy Dreams. It's pretty obvious when you've watched Take Me Home, which is obviously the documentaries that are following Leeds United. Academy Dreams I'd highly recommend. It's pretty obvious that Leeds put a lot of emphasis into the youth, being able to bring them through the ranks, and they're focusing a lot on that. I think that's why they've done this Academy Dreams. The reason they've done that is because Andrea Radrizzani is a media mogul, and what he'll be thinking is if we can get Leeds on a bigger platform, we'll be able to attract more youngsters. That's evidently what he's thinking by doing this Academy Dreams and allowing Amazon Prime into the camp. So Leeds have huge emphasis on that. We're yet to see a massive sale from the youth products. From probably last one you'd look at is someone like, obviously, Calvin Phillips, Jack Clark. But actually acquiring someone from another club, having them within the system for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then selling them on is something that Leeds haven't really done. So someone like Perkins, someone like Gelhardt, someone like Greenwood, these are players, someone like maybe even Cresswell. These are players that Leeds will be looking at and thinking they're either going to make the step up or we're going to move them on. Simple. And that's, what all the top clubs do. It's almost like the youth system nowadays is it's a money factory. City, Chelsea, money factories. So anyway, regardless, they have picked up a gem, in my opinion. Now, I was speaking to, before I did this video, spoke to him last night, spoke to him earlier on this morning, and it was about Sonny Perkins. Now, when he first came in, I spoke to the same individual who's quite close to things going on at West Ham. And he was saying that he's, in terms of productivity, in terms of the caliber of the lad, in terms of impact, he was on the same level as Declan Rice. That is what the academy level people at West Ham United were expecting when it came to Sonny Perkins coming through. Obviously, they tried to offer him a new contract, like we saw with Chelsea and Lewis Bate. Didn't happen. Wanted to play first team football. Fantastic acquisition. Now he's been in incredible form for Leeds United. He looks incredible at the youth level. He bagged a quick fire 33-minute hat trick for the under-19s in European qualification. We saw Darko JB also playing that game, bag a goal in the win over Montenegro. There was 3 clubs going in for him, including Tottenham Hotspur, West Ham trying to keep his services, and apparently Man United were looking at him as well. But this is where it's developed at Leeds United youth level. You know, Leeds been able to acquire services and been able to prove, look, this is what you get. You get exposure on Academy Dreams, exposure on Take Me Home, you get exposure in the first team. And we've proven that, and we give youth a chance. Now, I think that's going to impact the January window as well. I think it's impacted the summer window, because I think Leeds are looking at the youth products, and instead of bringing players in who are proven, who are worth a lot of money, Leeds are looking down the youth setup. They're looking at players like Willie Nonto. They're looking at players like Joe Gelhardt. They're looking at players like Sonny Perkins. Will that work? Who knows? I think you need to get proven players in and around. I think we needed to get a proven striker, another midfielder, although I can look at Darko JB and buy into that. But a left back was absolutely criminal anyway. We've got no one in the youth product who is going to be able to come up and back that up outside, you know, Leo Yelda, who is a centre back by trade. But his hat trick was the 10th goal for club and country this campaign, building on last season's exploits for West Ham United, where he found the net 18 times across 25 appearances in Premier League 2. I think there's going to be a point this season where we look at this kid. His strike of the ball is exceptional. If you've watched any of the youth games, his technique is very, very good. He's excellent on both feet, and he seems to have a real eye for goal. And the fact that West Ham were trying to keep hold of him, the fact that Spurs offered him a deal, the fact that Man United were trying to get his services, looks like Leeds have really acquired one here. And it's going to be really, really compelling to look at the dynamic between Perkins and someone like Joe Gelhardt, or Perkins and someone like Greenwood, although I think Greenwood's more of a midfielder now, but definitely Perkins and Gelhardt. That's going to be really, really, as I've just said, compelling to see who gets there first. I think Gelhardt's obviously way ahead of Perkins, but if Perkins is continuously proving for England and in the youth setup that he's able to cut it, and potentially able to cut it at a top level, Jesse's going to struggle to ignore that, especially, like we all know, if Patrick Bamford is going to get injured, which he will. I think Patrick Bamford's going to struggle for the rest of his career with injuries now, from my perspective. He has struggled in the entirety of his career anyway with injuries, but I think he's going to continue to struggle. He's at that age now where injuries you just can't shake off. So Leeds are going to have to rely on the youth, which is what they've set themselves up for, youth development. So let me know what you guys are thinking, but it's going to be fascinating to see, because I'm not sure Jesse can ignore this for much longer. If this guy is continuously performing at international and club level. Let's have a look. Straya, mate. Good evening, guys. Out of curiosity, did Llorente play for Spain at the weekend? If so, how well did he perform for Spain? I couldn't tell you, mate, but I'd be stunned if he did. 219 in here. Come on, now everyone smash a like. Yeah, guys, look, we're building up to the Villa game. There's going to be loads of content across the One Leeds platform. I'm probably going to continue standing up. I think standing up, it just gives me a little bit more, well, it helps my back as well. But yeah, it gives me a little bit more vigor. So yeah, there's going to be loads of content coming throughout the week. Please make sure you smash a like. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. And if you want some bonus content, check out the Patreon, which is in the link in the description below. LUFC England says the Academy Dreams doc highlights that Charlie's a future Leeds captain. I could not disagree with that at all. Archie Gray, solely yet another one who just looks fantastic at the minute in terms of ball production as well. Justin Thomas says, you talked about it a few weeks ago. He needs to be back in under 20 in 21s. He's not ready. Greenwood, better player. I don't know if we're talking about Perkins there, mate. Getting the badge in. Which arm is it? Oh, there we go, Lois. There we go, mate. Anyway. So, Aston Villa, anyway. Early team news. Early Aston Villa injury news for Leeds United trip as key quartet could miss out. Now, we know Diego Carlos is going to be missing for Aston Villa, which is a big, big miss. Obviously, the captain of Sevilla last season. Centre-back, 29 years of age, absolute monster. Really good acquisition by Villa. He's going to be out for this one. And Leeds could be boosted by several other Villa players who are going to be out for this one. Boubacar Kamara, someone who Leeds were allegedly interested in, 22 years of age, from Marseille. Villa managed to acquire his services. Looks like a top player in defensive midfield. Looks like he's going to be out with a knee injury for this one. Ligament damage, which is another boost for Leeds. I think that would have been a bit of a problem in there, especially in the midfield for someone like Brennan Aronson. He'd have been all over him. He's a really good man-for-man defender as well in and around that midfield. Big one as well, Matty Cash. Huge news for Leeds here because Matty Cash was someone who caused us a lot of problems in that narrow system. A hell of a lot of problems in that narrow system. He was getting as wide as possible. He had loads of ability and obviously scored a wonder goal that night. So apparently Matty Cash could be out for this one with a hamstring injury. And to add to that, Luca Dean. So if you remember that game against Aston Villa at Ellen Road, Luca Dean and Matty Cash murdered us. Looks like Luca Dean's going to be out for this one as well, which is huge for Leeds United. So you're looking at it, really, Leeds really couldn't get a bigger opportunity. Now, I know Aston Villa are very good going forwards, and I say very good, but I mean, when you look at the league position in the start, it's not been that great. But I'm talking about when you're talking about ability and the players and the pedigree that they've got going forward. Phil Coutinho, Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins, Emi Buendia. They've got, Bailey. They've got players everywhere. They've spent a lot of money, and this is what you have with the Premier League. That's why maybe that youth setup is good to a point with Leeds United, but then you have to invest fiercely in proven players to be able to compete at the upper echelon of the Premier League table. Just my thoughts. But, they've got a lot going forward. However, at the back, and this is where I think Leeds could really hurt Aston Villa, it looks like there's a hell of a lot of players out. When you're looking at that, who's going to come in? Maybe Chambers. I don't even know if they'd stick right back, to be honest with you. They seem to have had so many players in these positions, Villa, over the past couple of years who they've moved on, maybe haven't worked at the back. But that Matty Cash is going to be huge. Hopefully he's going to be out. Luca Dean, and Leeds have a huge opportunity here to win the midfield battle with someone like Boubacar Kamara out. You're probably looking at someone like Douglas Luiz coming in, who's been in teams before who've beaten Leeds United, and he's definitely well equipped at this level. But Leeds have got a real chance to put the burners on Aston Villa and a chance to get back to winning ways here. It's a huge opportunity, I think, and something that Leeds really need to take advantage of. Guys, that's going to be it this morning. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please make sure you're slapping a like on the video. Please make sure you're commenting. I'm trying to get as much video out as possible for you guys. We've got the debrief coming tomorrow night. Again, we were going to do it tonight, but England are playing Germany, obviously, so I think that's going to take a lot of people's attention away. Make sure, as I said, you're heading over to the Patreon if you want some bonus content. We had Generation Leeds out this weekend. We're going to have another Generation Leeds after the game at the weekend as well. We're going to have another bonus video coming this week as well, so make sure you check that out. Have a good one, everyone, and I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.